important stepping stone to that match that we're going to get to after this.
Yep, and here we are into Champion Select for our second game of the day. Tier 1 will be on the blue side this time around. Kitty Cat banned away by 100 Thieves.
Sad.
And a couple of mid laners taken away from Abadage. You can imagine that, the whole Faker Dage thing, it's not something that Faker really wants to be spoken about anymore, and they're going to remove some champions.
Making sure that there is the possibility, and I assume the TF will be banned, because that is what 100% T1 is going to first pick if it is not banned away by 100 Thieves. And I do agree with what the desk was saying earlier. I think as 100 Thieves, you have two options in my opinion. Either you try to play for FBI and Huhi, try to put Gumayushi and carry on the back foot, or you make sure that closer can snowball. But that's obviously a tough ask with the performance that Owner had thus far. There is the TF ban.
Yeah, I was going to say, finally, Faker's not allowed to play this one, because this is where you could just really have an incredibly tough time on the top half of the map. And I thought maybe we'd see Lee Sin priority here since it is left open, but we're going to go straight into the Aphelios, just blind, straight up.
Yeah, this is what Lyric was talking about, the Aphelios and the Lulu. That has been something that we've seen a fair bit. But the Lee Sin, of course, obviously, if it's going to be given away, it's going to be snapped up. Of course, Closer, very, very happy with that particular gift. We'll see what they are going to pair it with.
And it's an interesting call from T1. Not only giving up the lead that Owner has looked great on, also foregoing the MF. Right, a pick that has actually been the highest priority in terms of AD carries, that has been regarded as one of, if not the strongest picks, incredible in team fights, lane dominant. But T1 clearly favoring Gumayushi on one of his most iconic and comfortable champions. And to be fair to T1, we have also seen them win matchups that they should not be winning with Aphelios Lulu or Aphelios Fresh, similar setups. And it does look like it will be the Fresh into specifically Leona. Does make a lot of sense, and Carrier can single-handedly win games on the pick as well.
Yeah, if you end up going to Lulu here, I think you're very fragile in terms of that bottom matchup there, so I do like this pick quite a bit. Still have that jungle pick open, and we saw the Jarvan hover moments ago, and they will actually lock it in. I'm a little bit concerned about this one, especially when you could see the mobility that the composition that 100 Thieves has already. And now, because it's so early in the draft, they continue to play around this. Kennen going to be so strong into this too, because you're engaging in. You give him a really nice opportunity, as long as he doesn't get caught, of course. I'm personally not a huge fan of the Jarvan right now in this meta, so we'll see how this one plans out. But it's so face up.
I was just thinking about the Azael tweet that's coming through now about the Jarvan, saying that 100 Thieves are going to be able to take this one, as Ezreal is going to be picked away here for FBI, and I actually just love the stability of these three champions that 100 Thieves have.
It's a 2-for-1 deal. It's really good into the Aphelios. You outrange him and try to mitigate his impact as much as you can. Obviously in lane, not too much pressure, but it doesn't really matter. You're Ezreal, you're looking to get the 2 items as fast as you can, and then go from there. And it's also really good into the Jarvan. One of Jarvan's strengths is that I do think that he makes the MF a little bit weaker. You will be very stationary when you use your bullet time, and if Jarvan can either find a Cataclysm or an interrupt when you don't have your flash available, there is a lot of pressure there. But with the Ezreal, you negate a lot of impact of the pick, right? Just by the virtue of having your Arcane Shift in addition to your flash, it becomes a lot harder for Owner to actually play to that bot side.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I just don't like picking this Jarvan early. If you're going to pick something like this, you can save it until later, prioritize something else, and this just gives 100 Thieves so much time to be reactionary here, as we'll actually see the Renekton banned away here from Someday. And in terms of what we're going to see Faker player, it's still very much up in the air. I do like the Azir ban quite a bit because it's going to be safe in all scenarios with a draft like this. You have a lot of engage potential. You're going to have a lot of scaling that's added to that Aphelios. It's going to be strong later on. And your mid game is very strong with the Jarvan and that Azir.
It's going to be Orianna, right?
Oh, is it Orianna Kennen? Is that what we're going to see?
No, it's Orianna for T1 if it's not picked up by 100 Thieves, because I already see the Jarvan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I feel like this last round of Orianna
100%.
Kennen is like the most obvious, let's add circles to the circles type style. Of course, it's not a circle that when Thresh puts down the box, but you understand what I'm referring to, as the Aurelia going to be taken away, of course. Very high priority. Surprising that it got through here, as T1 are going to take away the Kennen themselves. And Sylas now being considered.
Would love to see the Sylas versus Orianna into Faker here. But it looks like he's just actually going to deny that pick away. You know, and a lot of other compositions with a lot of other different AD carries, if they had the Ezreal, for example, or the Jinx, I would even potentially like Faker on the Zoe here, considering the enemy's composition, but it's just so risky with what you have already, and it de-synergizes with this Jarvan in a lot of ways, unless you can hit that poke every time consistently, but you're dealing with a Leona in the front line. It feels so risky to pull this one out.
Jace Zoe could come in, though, for sort of that
if you get both, for sure.
Take control of that mid-game, theoretically, and Jace, obviously, something that we love here in the LCK, and Canna is going to be on it one more time. Definitely massive comfort for him.
I actually think the 100 Thieves composition, like, they drafted so well into what T1 likes to do, right? Like, the Aphelios comes out, and immediately, there's so much range available. Orianna, Ezreal, all these champions make it really hard for Gumayushi to actually have an impact. It will be that Zoe Jace combo. Now, that as a unit, I quite like, but you have one half of the T1 comp that wants to play very far forward, and you have one half that wants to kite back, right? And I think the link here is the Thresh, which can kind of do both. This is perfect. I didn't have the time to mention it, but you guys know I would have. Malphite into basically everything, but specifically that Jace is beautiful.
I mean, especially because this composition, this backline is very fragile, but the front line comes to you, right? So you have a lot of ways to engage with this. You could chip away. The top matchup is going to be fun to play here for someday, and I'm looking at this situation, and if you remove the nameplates here, I feel so heavily in favor of 100 Thieves draft here. They got everything they wanted to take away some of the strong points here of T1, and outside of the Orianna potentially getting caught, which seems very unlikely by this Jarvan, the Jarvan pick feels very weak going to the later stages of the game.
Main thing for me is that there will be a window in which the T1 champions have early prio, and we saw in the last game how much EDG was able to do with that. But I think that if there is no early pressure coming out from T1 and they go into the mid game on even footing with a composition like this into the team fight power that is provided by 100 Thieves, it's going to be a tall ask.
Yeah, no, I actually 100% agree with you, and I think that if there's no nameplates, this looks like a complete steamroll from 100 Thieves. Like, this composition, absolutely beautiful. It almost plays itself. I mean, like, Malphite ultimate into Solar Flare into Shockwave. Like, no one's doing anything for multiple seconds. And it's just beautiful the way that it is going to work. They have pick opportunities as well with Leona and Lee Sin. And, of course, FBI going to be extraordinarily safe on the Ezreal. But let's get into it and see whether 100 Thieves can make it work. Level 6 is going to be so important for this team. But as you guys already accurately mentioned, T1 on a lot of comfort and a lot of early priority. So how they can leverage that is going to be very, very important, especially if you're a LCK fan. And we've seen, like, the last time that we saw Carrier play Thresh was quite a while ago, but he won a game by himself. Basically, yeah. It was just unbelievable.
A lot of Titanic references in that one.
Yes.
It's a good day. I remember that one. I gotta say, though, like, the range problem is somewhat shored up by this poke, and you mentioned it before it even got locked in. If you go Jace and Zoe, you have your own amount of long range to kind of poke and siege away at 100 Thieves before the Jarvan engage comes through, before Aphelios comes in and drops down his ultimate. And it really is just sink or swim with this style of composition. You need to hit that poke, and if you don't, I mean, I think 100 Thieves win every single objective fight later on.
And also, if you see Ona go in and Cataclysm the backline, it's like this competition between Ona and Someday. And who's going to win that? I think the Malphite just launching himself into the backline of this Aphelios. Like, Carrier's Lanterns are going to have to be so good if 100 Thieves get the kind of team fights that they're looking for. Faker walks over a ward, but is going to get some vision down here for himself. This close is going to start off on the blue buff.
Yeah, it's basically snowball or bust. If you do actually get ahead with this T1 composition, you're able to take control of the enemy jungle, get an early mid turret, and deny vision. Then 100 Thieves, as good as that team fight is, should never be in a position where they can actually walk up, right? And in that scenario, I do think that the T1 comp is very strong. We have seen them play that, but at the same time, we've also seen T1 play a comp like this, get ahead, and then not actually be able to play it out clean enough. And that's always something that, no matter what the lead is going to be here, and I do expect T1 to build a lead, is it ever going to be enough to withstand the power, to withstand a single mistake that can get punished so heavily by a composition that presses all its R buttons and then blows up your entire team?
Yeah, the ease of execution is definitely there for 100 Thieves, I would say. Zoe, also another champion where Faker has had some very strong games this year. He hasn't played it all too often, but when he does play it, we've seen some games where he gets a triple kill by himself, 1v3, in some really big clutch scenarios around Baron pits. So, I mean, look for this guy to show you why he's the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, and also he's been very outspoken about how good he is on Zoe as well. I actually haven't heard Faker talk about many other champions that he plays with reference to just how good he is, but he's been very outspoken as how good he is on the Zoe. As remember, everyone, you can let us know what you think Faker is really good at using the hashtag Verizon5G all chat, and tell us exactly how you think 100 Thieves are also going to potentially be able to win this game. As Closer is going to walk over a ward. Canna's already down to about 50% though, as Someday moving on forward. See whether he can survive. Teleport to come forward. Canna is going to be saved. Faker going to move up though, and that is going to be now a very sleepy Lee Sin, and first blood goes to Faker. T1, turn it all around.
You make one overextension, you make one mistake, and you're going to get punished for it. Faker hits the sleep there perfectly. Threads, I mean, not even really threading the needle. It was a pretty easy shot, but he doesn't falter, he doesn't miss, and that's a guaranteed kill.
And I wonder whether 100 Thieves was aware of where Owner started, because if you are, you know that the J4 will be in the general vicinity. Owner went for a red into Raptors into Gromp, or a blue and Gromp rather, and even without the teleport, like just having Owner path up there as well, this could have backfired very, very easily. And I don't think you need to really try and play as aggressive as 100 Thieves. We already established. If you play it slow, I think that you have a huge edge in this game. It's up to T1 to make the plays.
Yeah, I mean, also, don't forget, Kana could have flashed too if this goes in a different way. If Faker doesn't come, like, he probably gets out. You would have maybe got the flash, so maybe that's the idea here. You take that flash away from a Jace, and suddenly that Malphite becomes a lot more threatening with Lee Sin there on the top side of the map, but they get neither the Jace nor the flash there. Yeah, and rough tidings here for the 100 Thieves.
Someday also demonstrating why Malphite is the best at closing out backs, because you have that shield. It's not going to actually be stopped when someone drops a flag on you. Fantastic stuff.
Really nice crossplay here by Closer, who has been, I think, one of the most threatening members on 100 Thieves. If you look at the domestic run as well, incredible at snowballing advantages around the map, able to get Raptors, and now the teleport comes in.
Yeah, looking for the dive is Gumayusi. Going to be burning down, flashes away. His Closer just flashes right on top of him, safeguards his way out. He will be fine, but now Faker is going to turn up once again. The Lee Sin having a bit of a nap at the wrong time, and 100 Thieves now looking to try and turn it back around. Hui looks for Faker, but Faker's just going to walk his way out. Ono looking for that one extra auto attack, but the Q is going to be enough. Faker does eventually fall down, but not after landing another bubble that is then turned around. FBI looking for even more as he picks up a double kill. Carrier, 250 health, not able to actually do much back, and now it's double buffs on the Ezreal.
Yeah, double buffs to Ezreal. Faker losing a little bit of farm there in the middle of the map, but still really nice mechanical defensive plays set up here on the side of T1. The teleport comes through, and you have so much time here actually as T1 with this Gumayusi flash. You force Closer to commit into that jump, and now Faker's got the ability to thread that needle once again.
I love the identification from 100 Thieves here though, because they realized that we know Owner was on top side, we know he's gone back, and in the end, I actually think this trade favors 100 Thieves. If you look, FBI doesn't get over the wall, but he does get the kill, and then double on an Ezreal this early on is going to help him accelerate so much, and I think getting either the Ori or the Ezreal to a point where they are a legitimate threat in the early game is going to make T1's task so much harder, because that means that you can't just take out any person, you take out a specific individual. With the front line that 100 Thieves is available, I think it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, if they had have got the kill on Abadage, then maybe it would have been better for T1, but I think 100 Thieves 100% came out on top of that one. Hui now rotating towards this mid lane. Not seen by T1 right now, but Faker not going to be moving any further forward than he should.
Someday was nearby as well. The question mark pings going down there, knowing that he was very likely in the vicinity. A lot of respect shown here in the mid lane for Faker. Someday's just going to head right back up. This means 100 Thieves get this opportunity to come over here and steal away this red.
They're effectively cross-mapping here, and again, really loving this from 100 Thieves, playing very, very proactive. Owner now, he senses something is off, and Carrier is going to spot them out. Maybe another skirmish here.
Yep. Owner's going to look for a few of those popcorn chickens as Faker. Dissonance going to connect. Does a fair bit of damage there, but just going to move his way back. Portal jump, pretty good for making sure that you can reposition. Now Gumayusi 1 versus 2 right now, but Carrier is going to come back down once again. And Guma still in a decent spot when it comes to farm and things like that, but FBI with those couple of kills that he's picked up earlier, that 2-item power spike that Ezreal always looks for is going to be coming so much faster this game.
Yeah,
which is going to be huge for 100 Thieves.
It's so scary when you consider, you know, the late game that this composition has, but when you already are struggling to keep that advantage as T1 early, it means the range advantage that you're going to have as Ezreal, the ability to poke down a Jarvan who's trying to engage onto targets that will either survive or will be able to escape, right, oftentimes, makes it so terrifying to think about what 100 Thieves comp is going to look like in 5-6 minutes time.
And it's not a cannon wave, so I think that what FBI and Hui are going to do is going to shove it in. That we see Arcane Barrage already used, because they know what T1 is going to do. T1's going to do what they always do, and that's going to go for a full commit on the enemy Herald.
That's what they always do.
Even though Guma was kind of going back and forth on it, we saw him kind of be unsure what to go for. Looks like T1 is going to fully commit, but like I said, not a cannon wave, so 100 Thieves should be able to pick up like a couple of plates on both sides here.
Yep, they are going to cancel those backs, so it looks like 100 Thieves are just going to say, all right, we'll trade this one. But with all of the extra time, the fact that there's a Sheen on FBI right now, they should be able to get a second plate here before T1 make it back down. But Guma did go back a little bit earlier, so perhaps we'll be able to just pick up the farm and 100 Thieves are going to go back. So it actually works out quite well for T1. And they're not going to run into that issue that they've had in the past, which is go for every single Herald without fail. This time they did do that, but they didn't fail. It was fine.
Yeah, didn't get punished for it. And, I mean, minus those plates, of course, on the bottom side.
Yeah, I think they did lose their, like, straight-up goal advantage. And you do have the Herald still in the back pocket, and I think that the main thing that I'm looking for T1 for now is find a dive somewhere and try and get an actual first turret bot, because that is definitely going to make it worth your while. But thus far, we don't see T1 pulling ahead to the extent that I think they need to with this comp. And if they can't get a mid lane turret anywhere in the next 5 to 10 minutes, 100 Thieves are going to feel completely comfortable going into this mid game.
Got to get that Wolf turret for the Zoe, first turret there if you can in the mid lane, so she has a lot more power. It has the ability to, of course, poke and chip through parts of 100 Thieves jungle, and it's going to be a lot freer. 100 Thieves keep stealing away these small amounts of camps. They're taking vision control here. You're forcing Owner to clear this right now. They don't have any vision. T1 don't on the Drake. Well, they don't have Cryo on bottom. So forcing a lot of rotations over here, a lot of resources. Owner had to come down there to check that out. And you're not losing in terms of real permanent leads as T1, because you can, of course, take that gold lead with the Rift Herald. But as you guys have pointed out, the tempo that you want to have with this trap, the small advantages you want to have before the Ezreal comes online, they're not really hitting it. Now, yes, you group up for the Drake, but if 100 Thieves just skip this fight, they're going to feel very comfortable, I'd say, to give this one up.
Yeah, they don't need to fight for this if they don't want to. I feel like 100 Thieves have themselves a composition that if you walk into a river both sets of 5 champions, you're going to be pretty happy past 25 minutes.
Yeah.
As 100 Thieves. Zabadog are going to get exhausted here in the mid lane. Good sidestep there from Ono, avoids the Sonic Wave. Closer not going to be able to close the gap onto the Jarvan.
And here you see the payoff for that play that 100 Thieves made earlier on the bot side of the map. Yeah, they traded a couple of kills, but now FBI already has his Divine Sundering finished this early on. Not even 11 minutes into the game, and that's going to give a lot more threat to an Ezreal if they do decide to opt into an early team fight. A lot of the, or rather, all the ultimates also online. So this is where it starts to get scary for T1. This is where they really need to make sure that they keep it clean and they get that poke going.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first times I've seen the MasterCard Mythic come up, and it wasn't a Gore Drinker.
Yeah.
So congratulations to FBI for beating the junglers to the punch this time around. Yeah.
Kana going to grab an extra plate here on the top side of the map. You can see Faker was looking to potentially look for a play up there too on someday returns, but they're not going to find that. And it's going to be that free Drake going over to 100 Thieves here. And in terms of what you gain as 100 Thieves here, yes, the plate gold is huge, and it is nice for Kana to pick that up early. But having Drake tempo advantage when your comp is already stronger to the late game, you're really liking this exchange in terms of the 2 objectives gained. You got the better one.
Yeah, no, also happy feeding a little bit here as 100 Thieves is just going to walk up the river. Should be able to take this Rift Scuttler with Fuhi lying in wait. Carrier gets that ward right on top of the Leona. And with Carrier turning up, looks like they might be able to get some work done here as Someday taking a fair bit of damage. Canna still able to get through the tankiness of the Malphite at this stage. That is going to be the Rift Herald secured. Shockwave going to connect onto Faker, but there is a Lantern immediately, so the Solar Flare is not going to work out. 100 Thieves throwing out a few ultimates. T1 having the answers.
And I think T1 was looking for that first Herald Blood on top side, able to crash Shirley into that 3-play turret, maybe look for some aggressive play on Sunday. And they will go for it now, but I think 100 Thieves is very ready for this. Don't think they should give up the full turret, might give up the 2 plates, but again, not the end of the world.
They want to commit though.
Carrier going to come on forward. His owner's going to flash away. The box comes forward as there's the Cataclysm. Great playback onto Sunday. Denies his escape. And we do get all of those plates coming on over to T1. True Shot Barrage. Not going to find owner. Is now who he's going to look for his way out. And he does so. Teleport to come forward from Abadage. But this turret is already dead. The teleport was to the mid lane. 100 Thieves just going to give this one up.
Well, that was really nice reactionary play. Excuse me, hard word to say sometimes.
Reactive-tionary?
Yeah, reactive shenanigans here. The carrier getting the play there was huge, but the reaction there from Owner as well to drop the Cataclysm down, catch that Malphite who's going in. As we see a very great trade here from Faker in the mid lane. Was just really quick thinking here from T1. It was very much a setup play. They know that Someday could have gone in on that. I think Someday, if he had just been a little bit more patient there, could have gotten a lot more value out of that ultimate.
That's something that I wanted to go into as well, because I don't think you need to play it that fast as 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
I think you have a little bit more time. We did see some people roam up from the mid lane, which might have been an opportunity for them to counter.
Well, Finch938 has said, I really love Faker's Lissandra. His ability to juke every situation and still get kills was what really made me love this guy. Hoping to see it maybe once this world. See whether he picks it into Scout, perhaps. In the next game, could be a thing. Of course, Scout has already played it so far today, so it's a champion that should be in the meta.
That would imply that Scout has LeBlanc. And I don't know if that's a preferable gameplay situation if you are T1, but I agree.
I mean, if you want to see Faker's Lissandra,
well,
then
that's the condition.
If that's the win condition right there, getting him to play it, then we don't mind about which matchup it's in.
Yeah, tweet at T1 and ask them not to ban it, so we could maybe have that exchange, because that is definitely where Lissandra is in this meta as a specific counter pick. Otherwise, you probably won't be seeing it. But hey, fingers crossed, right? Anything is possible.
And what we saw there was, I think, the first time that T1 really out-favorably traded cross-map against 100 Thieves, who thus far have been able to keep up very, very nicely. As he does get the cannon.
Oof, I was a bit scared for a second.
Yeah, me too. Because getting that first blood is one thing, but simultaneously Gomushi was able to pick himself up a number of plates in the bot side as well, just before they dropped. Now the second row is coming through, and we're now slowly starting to see the acceleration that T1 need. Still think that for 100 Thieves, there's going to be plenty of opportunities, but you need to clean it up a little bit, because this is where the T1 comp is at its scariest. You have the one Mythics finish, and if they can snowball here, then every further step for you becomes incrementally harder.
Yeah, and the mid turret here, if T1 are able to get it, is arguably way more valuable than that bottom turret is going to be for their composition. So yes, they left Someday down there who's going to get some extra gold here, but this is the fight that you really, you can't take as 100 Thieves just yet, and you're going to give over a much stronger objective because you just simply gave the Herald for free while committing to that bottom turret.
Oh, you're going to take a lot of damage there with the empowered shot blast after the sleep came through as well. Shirley going to get a double charge. She's got a headache, but T1 are very, very happy about it, as that was the Wolf turret going down.
There it goes.
If you didn't know, this was Wolf's absolute favorite analytical point, was talking about how if you take a mid lane turret as Zoe, you're extremely happy.
Yeah, that's why we call it the Wolf turret.
We do.
They get it because it's more valuable than the turret that Someday was trying to take out bottom side there, which he didn't. I'm not actually sure, but I don't think he actually got the gold for.
No.
So that makes the cross-map play, if you could call it that, feel even worse. And these are some small macro mistakes from 100 Thieves that really, really hurt.
Well, we were already talking about it, but of course, the battle in the jungle is where we're going to be focusing on in our Mercedes matchup of the day. EDG versus T1 last time. Was EDG able to come out ahead? We'll see whether T1 can fight back better in our next game, coming right after this.
Very soon, T1 going to get this Drake for free here. See a big group up for a top turret here for 100 Thieves. And again, that first Drake that they got means that this buffer that you have with the first Drake advantage is really nice for the Ezreal that's scaling up. Already is halfway towards his Paramana being completed. Gonna trade a turret for a turret at the same time though, and you're not getting anything back here. Really, at the end of the day, yeah, you feel comfortable how you're going towards the late game. You're kind of slowing the game down in this way, but T1 are getting better trades on the map.
And what's key here for 100 Thieves, I say, as more of their base crumbles, is you need to try and keep a semblance of control on the map. because you are going to be able to, no matter what the gold says, punish missteps from T1, and we know that they've made those at times. The problem is, to do that, you need either vision or a deep ward that will allow Sunday to go for a deep flank. If you have no vision control whatsoever on the map, and you're going to have to walk straight up over all the vision that T1 has been setting up ever since they dropped that mid lane turret, and every time they go for an objective, it's going to be physically impossible for you to have the health bar necessary to actually utilize how strong your team fighting is. And even though the gold, I think, is looking fine, it's going to be more about who can take the vision control, because once 100 Thieves are fully locked in their base, I don't know if they can get out.
Yeah, and we were having a look at the gold there just for a moment. If you remember back, FBI had a 1,000 gold lead, and now it's 100. Gumayusi really has managed to pick up a whole bunch of that local gold from turrets, turret plates, things like this, and the Aphelios is well and truly feeling good.
Now, this is a play you can make around vision, like you were talking about, Chronicler. If you have that control right now, T1 just step over the line for an instant. You have such explosive power with this composition, but T1 respecting the fact that they know they don't know, and are just going to slowly play around this, eventually toss that ward over into the Raptor camp. They are able to swallow the Lantern, that control ward, and they should be able to kill that one out shortly as well.
Big thing here is that the initial Drake that 100 Thieves was able to get for themselves substantially slow down T1. Unless T1 want to go for an aggressive Baron play, which they have been known to do, and I think they can, provided they are able to actually get control of the topside jungle, as we see Carrier do now. It is going to take a long time for them to actually stack up these Mountain Drakes, and also they can't give them over to 100 Thieves, because once 100 Thieves start sacking Mountains, it's downhill very, very fast as aggressive jungle invade.
Yep, they already have one Mountain. His name's Someday as Faker pops on over into the Bramble Pit. He taking 50% health as the teleport's going to come through from Abadage. So 100 Thieves, they lose their split on the bottom side and that teleport advantage that they had there. Is T1 now looking to pressure towards that top side. Faker's spellbook has turned into some fire, so he doesn't have teleport right now either. So theoretically, 100 Thieves should be fine as far as teleports are concerned. It's still down 3,000 gold to lead for T1.
Sleep.
As FBI gets sleepy, does have himself the cleanse as the Shockwave is just going to deny T1 a lot of defensive ultimate usage here from 100 Thieves as they're bullied out of their own jungle.
At some point, you do have to fight for this vision in your own jungle, though, as 100 Thieves. At some point, you have to say our composition is online now, because if you just sit back for the entirety of this mid-game, all right, we'll go for that late game, we're going to late game scale up, get this Orion online. We have so much engaged tools, we have this Ezreal. If you wait forever, then you never have vision, and then you're always walking into Shock Blast. You're always walking into these bubbles and the poke that the Battle Stars are going to have here from Faker, and you just can't give up this much control of the map. Now is the time to start actually fighting for some of that vision. Your composition is starting to have some power. You do have that 2-item spike coming online here for FBI. You've got to take some skirmishes. You can't just press the surrender button in terms of these small fights.
Good thing for 100 Thieves is they are approaching 2 big item spikes. Abadage about to finish his Seraphs, or it is the tier 40 stack, has a nearly large rod, and then FBI is close to actually upgrading his Muramana. That was the item power spike we were talking about when he got those couple of kills earlier, and that's the point where the 100 Thieves is actual, or composition rather, actually has a sizable threat, and I expect from that point onwards to see them play a lot more aggressive. Whereas this Drake, I think you can still give up. I think it's the next one that you really got to be worried about once you start giving over that soul point, because then T1 can kind of drag you around the map and also kind of disallow you, because we haven't even talked about the possibility, especially with Abadage's teleport being down right now, of T1 trying to kind of pull it apart, right? Try to get side lane pressure through Kana, who while he probably won't kill Someday, if you give enough time, possibly he could. Someday very far behind in the current state of the game, and while he's tanky, I don't know if it's enough in the long run, as like a vision here.
Well, all of 100 Thieves all grouped up here in this mid lane. They want to be team fighting as T1 looking to try and split them up as best they can. Huhi down to 50% one more time. As Faker lands another bubble. This time it is onto the Malphite as Someday taken down.
I mean, not any magic resistance on this champion. He's going to take a lot of damage when he does get hit by those. You go down to half health, and then suddenly you don't have any engage opportunities.
But when 100 Thieves use all of their engage tools onto Faker, Someday becomes immortal. That's what happens if he stacks all of this armor, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, you understand how these 5v5s are supposed to work for 100 Thieves, but right now is when T1 is strong. This is the mid game, this is Zoe time, this is Jace time, and 100 Thieves just biding their time.
I partially agree. At the same time, look at the itemization from Gumayushi. He also realizes that and has gone for that Lord Dominic's second. And that means that even if someday if they go too hard on Faker, but Guma gets to stand in the back line and spin around a whole lot, as we know he loves to do on the Aphelios, that still remains a viable threat. So I do think that while we talk a lot about, yes, in the late game, in a team fight, 100 Thieves should have an edge, still believe that is true. I think that T1 have less opportunities for missteps. At the same time, if you over-index on a Faker and a Kana, and you're unable to do with Gumayushi, provided that he doesn't get blown up instantly and he actually gets in range, which against Ori and Ezreal generally shouldn't happen. But if you do overstep, he will also shred through
the problem is that the Orianna and the Ezreal can't stop you from closing that gap if there's no vision. Look at the map right now. I see one ward on the blue side of the map for 100 Thieves. The bottom side of the red jungle is completely warded by T1. They've got vision control on both the Baron Pit and the Drake. So, you know, in terms of the range advantage we talk about, it doesn't matter if you're fighting blind, right? And T1 have done such a good job of moving together and clearing that vision off. And 100 Thieves have never actually been confident enough to contest it because I think the composition is still a little bit too fragile. I think if you play too safe around this, eventually you're just always going to be throwing darts at a dartboard in the dark. You're not going to actually be able to hit any of that damage, and you're always going to feel very timid in these upcoming fights.
I like that 100 Thieves play around the fact that they did hit Faker with a True Shot Barrage, so able to now move into this river, get some vision down. They so desperately wanted. Ona thinking about a flanking play as Canna splitting towards the bottom side of the map as Faker just looking for these paddle stars, looking for whatever sleeps he can find. Closer going to be spotted. Ona checks him out. Faker going to land another paddle star, but no one's sleepy just yet. Gumayushi underneath this turret, just going to tidy up this mid lane. So we get the big zoom out. Someday in Canna. Someday losing out as far as the health trades are concerned, but he should be okay defending for the moment.
And here we see again how much T1 loves playing around Kana on Jace. Specifically this pick, his entire team continues to set up vision for him in the bot side jungle. They're all hovering, they're walking in and out of fog. They're making sure that Kana can actually play as far up as he does. And we already see them, got them the mid lane turret, and I think it's not going to be that long off before we see them go for something similar on a side lane turret, which is going to be even more gold into the pockets of T1 and might have them hit those item breakpoints.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the picks that T1 fans either loved or hated for Kana all year long.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been a big fan of his Jace, but there have been some inconsistencies. There have been some moments where he's gotten gapped by a lot of top laners in the LCK or has made some poor decisions with positioning, but in games like this, when he is given so many resources and there is so much power for T1 on the map here, arguably I think more than they should have at this stage, then you can make those aggressive plays. You can even trade against a Malphite because you know there's no rotation coming because you have all that vision. And that vision that you talked about after that one early trade there with the True Shot Barrage came through that we saw for 100 Thieves for just a moment is now all wiped off the map here. And we're getting to a point where with this Aphelios, you can actually do a Baron pretty quickly if 100 Thieves don't have that vision. So True Shot Barrage here to check. You're so blind right now with 100 Thieves.
And let's not forget, if 100 Thieves win this game, this group is all of a sudden wide open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As FBI, he's got his Frozen Heart. This guy's extremely strong right now. But not going to be able to dive any turrets or anything like that right now. But 100 Thieves, you can feel the shift in momentum in this game. They're now starting to move a little bit further forward, trying to get more vision. You can see 2 control wards leading towards this Baron Pit. T1 still with that control ward inside the pit itself. Otherwise, not too much more. As Faker here on the top side of the map. He's going to walk away. Closer. He's going to get sleepy once again, but Faker's just going to ghost his way out with the one that he filtered from the ground.
He's fighting tooth and nail over every ward in this Drake pit right now. But 100 Thieves, as you mentioned, like you could feel the hourglass turn to a certain extent here in terms of how brave they are on the map. And we might actually see a shock blast, or rather shockwave here from the Orianna finally at some point. Might actually see an engage here. 100 Thieves brave enough to fight now.
Yep, Someday is on the bottom side of the map. So that unstoppable force, okay. Flash out from Carrier. Gonna have to respect, there's so much pick CC, non-committal here from 100 Thieves. They can just throw it out willy-nilly, see what sticks, and then Someday teleports in and dives on top of everyone.
And again, T1 is relying on vision, and currently the vision setup is not that good around this Drake. If they keep getting shots on 100 Thieves, sure, you're gonna feel fine, but with the control that 100 Thieves currently have, I think T1 are gonna recognize that and say, all in on the Baron.
Yeah, well, Could be a second Drake here for 100 Thieves in trade for a Baron, which is not a trade that you'd want.
No vision again.
100 Thieves, but they are going to throw down that blue trinket. It's T1 with their poke in position. They have taken away the vision of 100 Thieves as well, which is exactly what you need to do when you have this Jace and the Zoe. Bubble, not quite going to connect there onto FBI. Zabadage takes a fair bit of damage.
Look how difficult it is to even close the distance on T1 when you don't have those wards and when there's so much consistent poke here available for T1. When even shock blasts like this are going to add up.
Yeah, Bubble connects, and that is exactly what Someday doesn't really want to soak. Because, of course, not a lot of magic resist at this point in time. Now, positioning, repositioning around this Mountain Drake. Owner inside the pit, scoping it out. He's going to be able to flag drag his way over the wall. And 100 Thieves, they might just be able to take this one for free. Spotted now for T1. Let's see what they can actually do here. Teleport in from Abadage. It's going to be a defensive one as the Drowsy comes on in once again. Faker looks for more FBI in position to challenge as it is going to be Closer that locks down the Dragon. Owner takes himself a Lantern and does get himself out as Faker. Oh, Someday with the best item in the game. It's going to keep him alive.
He was just so late on coming in there as Abadage. I mean, he came in at the right timing to secure the Drake, and it was a teleport he was necessary to take, but he wasn't able to get an ultimate off there. He wasn't able to actually grab T1 when they're corralled like that. It was a little bit too late to arrive.
But now it's a free Baron.
Yeah, Abadage teleported in, and that means that if they don't try and hard force this, the Baron is going to go to T1.
Well, preemptive box comes through from Carrier just to try and deny them from getting in, but this is just going to get rushed down and taken away by T1. A split-second decision, and T1 just walk away with a Baron.
There's got to be so much more decisive on the map here as 100 Thieves. Like, that fight over the Drake, yes, they were able to get the smite off, but I think that's a fight you can realistically take if you set up a little bit faster, if you set up a little bit better.
Yep. Stealing a Baron from the Thieves, though, gentlemen, it's not exactly what we were expecting to see. 5,000 gold the lead, and that is only going to extend as this Baron power play continues. T1, they're even on Dragons. If this game goes ever further and they're not able to break down too much of the base with this Baron, then 100 Thieves still in an okay position. But otherwise, this is all great news for T1.
And I gotta say, 100 Thieves, I love how they played at skirmish, not afraid, standing their ground, identifying the threat that they have available, keeping Owner out of that pit. But then you do see kind of the reluctance, the trepidation as they back, and I think that's fine, but everyone then needs to, at the very least, threaten T1, make them uncomfortable, and they gave them just way too much space. I think that there is a scenario where, as 100 Thieves, even with some of your health was a little bit low, at the very least you can pressure T1, maybe try and force a mistake, but instead, you're getting sieged by a Zoe and Jace composition.
Ooh, Faker getting engaged on his, gonna get kicked back as Closer also slowed down and taken to half health. 100 Thieves continuing to push back on T1, but another Baroned up wave of minions now moving towards their base. It's a back to come through from Closer.
It's just such an insane amount of siege here for T1. They just play it slow, and if you do commit in, as Closer did there, the chances that you're going to get blown up are so high at this stage. You really just have to play this one slow, and had they been more aggressive earlier, there would have been way more opportunities, but now you've just lost even further control over the map, and as 100 Thieves here, you just have to weather the storm. You don't have any opportunities here whatsoever. You can see where Kana is, so you know, okay, rotating over here, I'm going to take a shock blast. I mean, it's lose-lose right now until that Baron timer runs out.
We'll see whether T1 can actually push on forward and get some relevant damage onto these inhibitor turrets. So far, the answer has been no, as FBI has been pretty good at stopping these minions from even getting towards the turret. Bubble gonna go a little bit wide as T1 transition into the mid lane. Someday throws out a wagon wheel, but he will get hooked and just blown up. Is he tanky? I don't know, as that is a shockwave to come forward as well. Kuma taken down to about half, but T1 have different things on their mind. They jump underneath the turret. FBI's being exhausted. Flash forward from Kana, and the game might just be over right here. The flash forward from Gumayushi, unable to finish off the kill, but they will take down the mid lane inhibitor, and they will push forward for the end.
We were waiting for a scaling breakpoint that never happened, and that moment of hesitation. T1 take the Baron, and out of nowhere, they take the game.
Yeah, we were talking about the fact that 100 Thieves stood a chance, but there goes the Nexus. And unfortunately, that means that 100 Thieves are now eliminated. from getting out of the group stage.
And this was a game where you had a great draft. We were praising it from bans and picks, and we knew that this composition was going to come online. We knew that if they actually grouped up, they had so many initiation tools. Malphite ultimate, you could toss it. You have the Orion ultimate, but as you point out, Chronicler, they didn't even step across the line. They didn't even threaten. They didn't even make T1 wonder what would happen if they engaged, because they were always tucking tail and running, and you can't run away with a stronger late game comp all game long. Give up all that vision, give up those objectives, and hope to win a fight defending your Nexus. It just did not happen. It was a game where we waited forever, and we never saw the climax of T1, or 100 Thieves composition, rather.
And stealing that Baron, it's what it all came down to. It was a little bit of homework that was left unattended to by the 100 Thieves. And it was all too dark. They couldn't actually answer anything of what T1 did in that sort of mid to late game transition.